and agenda, Peter.
Good evening. This is the Shellfish Advisory Board, dated January 21st, 2025. I'd like to call this meeting to order. We'll start with an approval of the agenda, please.
Motion to approve. Second.
Motion's made by Mr. Anderson, seconded by Mr. Bossy to approve tonight's agenda. All in favor, Mr. Anderson?
Aye.
Mr. Bossy?
Aye.
Mr. DeCosta?
Aye.
Mr. Sherlin?
Aye.
Mr. Brace?
All right,
We have Mr. Franzuto on board.
don't think so.
Okay, chair votes aye. Approval of minutes. We have draft minutes from January 7th.
And the other two are from meetings when they weren't completed in time or we didn't have a quorum. So, I just threw them on there so we can get them done.
Okay, great. Thank you, Peter. We'll start with January 7th. Any revisions, changes to be made, suggestions, or a motion to approve?
I have a question. Did we actually decide to rewrite the letter? I thought we decided to stick with our bullet points.
No,
No, we did decide to rewrite it. Okay. Then
in listening to the minutes, you were the one dissenting voice.
okay. I didn't see it in the minutes that we decided to rewrite the letter, which is why I asked. I said it was harsh, and I don't recall that, but anyway, doesn't matter. That's
Well,
very depressing.
it won't go past the select board if it's not rewritten.
That's good. Fine. Yeah, I just was curious. I didn't see it in there and I didn't remember it happening. Okay. I was on Zoom though. I'll make a motion to accept the seventh.
I'll second that.
Motion's made to approve the draft minutes of January 7th by Mr. Bossy, seconded by Mr. Anderson. All in favor, Mr. Anderson?
Aye.
Mr. Bossy?
Aye.
Mr. DeCosta?
Aye.
Mr. Sherlin?
Aye.
Mr. Brace?
All right,
Chair votes aye as well. Draft minutes from July 16th, 2024. Everybody had a chance to look at them. Any revisions? If not, I'll accept a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
We have a second. Motion's made by Mr. Anderson, seconded by Mr. Sherlin to approve draft minutes of July 16th. All in favor, Mr. Anderson?
Aye.
Mr. Bossy?
I'm gonna abstain. I don't believe I was here.
Mr. DeCosta?
Yeah, I'm gonna abstain as well. I don't think I was here for this one.
Mr. Sherlin?
Aye.
Mr. Brace?
all right,
Chair votes aye. That was 4 of us. Draft minutes from October 1st, 2024.
I'll move to accept.
Second.
Motion's made by Mr. Bossy, seconded by Mr. DeCosta. I knows. All in favor, to approve the draft minutes of October 1st. Mr. Bossy.
Aye.
Mr. Anderson.
Aye.
Mr. DeCosta.
Aye.
Mr. Sherlin.
Aye.
Mr. Brace.
all right.
Chair votes aye. Thank you. Nothing to report in the chairman's report.
I just got a text from Dave, says he's not making it because of health reasons.
Okay. Thank you. Marine Department report. I did not reach out to Sheila, forgive me for that. Make sure to do that. Tara's gonna be a little late. So we'll move right into old business advisory to select board on vineyard wind and wind turbines in general. Mr. Brace has rewritten the letter, some revisions requested at our last meeting and revisions requested by the select board. Everybody had a chance to look at it.
Well, I just sent it out an hour before the meeting because we just got it done, but here's all the obvious, so.
Could we stick a carriage return between each of these other items? I know it's gonna make it look more like the bullets, but the paragraphs without a carriage returns, without a space between.
Which ones are you talking about?
Between each of these paragraphs,
You want a full space.
Yeah, I like, just like
Full
this,
space,
just like the top, the first one, yeah, yeah, because otherwise. The only thing telling you it's a separate item is the fact that it does manage to stop before the end of the line. Which they managed to do, but, yeah, I'd like to just see another space in there, that's all.
Okay, I'll do that,
Okay, thank you.
but. You know, they may. See through,
It's-
they may
the
see
pa-
that, and they see through that and say, we want it formatted.
That's
like
not
that.
why, that's not why I said it, Peter, I just don't think it presents well, I think it doesn't, it reads. If I was picking this up to read it, I'd look at the first paragraph and I go, holy cow, I look at this big paragraph here.
Okay,
And that's all, I just don't think it reads well.
I put the space in, if they don't like it, then we'll argue with them about it. I
Okay,
think At this
I'm just-
point, they're nitpicking us to the point where,
well, they didn't tell me to compress everything, I just did that.
no, I,
That's how I
they
write,
did
but-
say to take the
Yeah,
bullet
all
point
right,
out.
I'll do that.
So let's just put the space in, we're not numbering them, we're not highlighting them.
Right. Just for readability.
Yeah, it is, I agree, and I also think at this point that. They're, I'm very close to feeling like, we're being told what to say and not allowing us to what to say. So,
Well, they didn't actually make any comments about what we said in the letter, they just said they wanted it formatted differently, and I'm really, Dave, all
yeah,
I'm doing is what they.
no, I got you, Peter, you're just the messenger, I totally get it. I think we just put this in, and if they have problems with it again, then we can deal with it, but at this point, I also would like to reiterate that we want to send this still to the governor and to our to our delegates. And to whoever else we feel needs to get it.
I agree.
Yes,
I mean,
I think we're all in agreement on that.
yes, absolutely. I find it hypocritical on the town's behalf, and I'm not pointing out anyone in particular here, that the amount of negativity expressed by different boards in this town towards South Coast is falling on deaf ears when it comes to Vineyard Wind. And to me, it's an apples and apples comparison. In some cases, worse for Southwind, but we didn't complain about any of these things that they're complaining about with Southwind, yet here we are. The town has written all these letters, the UCC's chimed in, the select board has chimed in. All these different departments have chimed in about how bad South Coast is gonna be, but we're still not complaining at all about Vineyard Wind. And the fact that we've had a major issue with a blade, and it's, from what I've been reading, trying to keep up on it, they've been told that they had to remove all of the blades that were built in Canada. And there are even some questions about the blades that were built in France. Yet they got to go ahead to start generating again. Oh, by the way, one turbine's turning, whoopee. They're gonna have to, I mean, I saw the last thing I saw, and again, I don't always believe what I see because you never know where the information's coming from. That being said, it looked like almost every blade that's up needs to be replaced. So that's a substantial Sure is. effort and cost and. So anyway. I would like to get these letters out sooner than later. And I think that Peter did a phenomenal job here putting this together. I
It
think we
needs,
got all
it
our
needs
points.
work, I literally threw it together this afternoon, and it needs work, I just wanted you to have something.
The points are there, and that's my biggest thing. And, if you think you need to tweak it a little bit, you tweak it a little bit, but I want to get it sooner than later done, so.
Mr. Chairman, I want to say something about what Bobby just said.
Yeah.
The reason where everyone's harping on South Coast is because we weren't really given a chance to say anything about Vineyard Wind. They went ahead and did everything and made the agreement, and now all of a sudden it's happening. So then we had the experience with Vineyard Wind. And, so now everyone's awake and aware, and all the energy is going, all the negativity is going to South Coast Wind. We still feel that negativity toward Vineyard Wind. It's just that we're all like, better get this one before it comes out of the ground.
And we're also, our hands are tied because of the good neighbor.
Neighbor agreement, right.
Which
Right.
we all feel, not we all, but I personally feel adamantly we should withdraw from it because of the concerns that we've already had. So, but that being said, I think we should, like you said, Peter, if you need to tweak this a little bit, put those spaces in. I read it, it gets our points across. And I'd like to get it out.
Got a motion?
Well, before, I wrote it because we're directing it at the select board. But we want it to go to everybody. So I think there should be a note.
Should we put a line at the bottom that says copies to, and then list who the copies we want to send to us?
Well, I think we should say this letter was originally intended to go to our select board, but we'd like it to go. Or I could remove all the references to the select board as much as possible. But it's really, the select board gets it first. So it should be directed to them, but I don't know how to.
Maybe the solution is you send it to the select board and we send a separate paragraph saying we would all, upon your receipt, with your permission, we'd like to send it to these people. And if they have issues with it, then we can deal with that separate them separately. Does that make sense?
Well, it makes sense, but you end up running the risk of them not wanting to do it after Libby already said she had no problem with us sending it out to everybody.
Okay.
So we shouldn't give that away, right? So we write it so that this letter is intended.
But address it to the select board and then just CC to these other people. That happens all the time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
that's what I was
Yeah,
saying.
it's
Put on the
addressed
bottom,
to the
CC to
CC to
Governor Healy.
Governor
Okay.
Hero, Sire,
Sire. and,
whatever his name, yeah, Sire.
Cy and, what's the other guy's
But
name?
it has to go. What's making Bobby upset. After I perfect it, then it goes back to town administration and they say, okay, this is good. You know what I'm saying?
They're still gonna bless it.
They still have to sign off on it because she said, we want the bullets gone and we want it in letter form, which means I have to send it back to them and they have to say, okay.
Well, then you might as well put the names on the bottom of it.
Yeah, so they know
CCs,
where it's
because
coming.
otherwise, if they come back to us and we CC it, they're gonna say, you never told
Yeah,
us
this
that.
way they'll know who we want to send. it
Right,
to.
they'll know the
Okay.
plan. We're not trying to hide anything.
Yeah, I agree.
And if they have an issue with it, then we'll come back at our next meeting and try to tweak it to make them happy, or we'll
Yeah.
decide, or we'll kick it, or they'll take it down the road forever. Yeah.
Their happiness is the most important thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
So. We gonna go over this again in 2 weeks.
Unless. I mean, if they say it's fine. Yeah,
We should submit it to them. I mean, I don't have a problem with it. We do the spacing and that's all I asked for.
Yeah, I'm ready to make a motion to include the spacing, put the CC in there. I'll make the motion. I make a motion that Peter space it out. And we add the CCs of who we want it to go to. And we submit it to the select board for their approval.
I'll second that.
Okay, the motion's been made by Mr. DeCosta to approve this letter with revisions spoken about. Seconded by Mr. Anderson. Any discussion? All in favor, Mr. Anderson,
Aye.
Mr. Bossy.
Aye.
Mr. DeCosta.
Aye.
Mr. Sherlin.
Aye.
Mr. Brace.
all right.
Chair votes aye as well. Thank you. Especially thank you to Peter for,
Yeah, Peter, I know you put a lot of work in this.
Taking
I
the extra
appreciate it.
time.
Actually, it really isn't, but thank you.
well, you're still going to, and.
No, I,
You know-
I think, this. I think this is important for this board to speak up on this because even though it doesn't have to do with Shellfish or the harbor, it really does in several ways. And it's good for the board to realize that they have us here to ask these kind of questions to.
But it needs to, it needs to be a letter that, it needs to just, this is how we feel. So if another installation comes up, how does the shab board feel? Well, here it is. Here's the letter was
On record.
put out there on record. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, thank you again for that. All of you. And Peter, when you've actually completed it, will you email it out to us?
Yeah, I will.
Great. Sarah, if you're ready, we'll go to the natural resources report.
Sure, sorry, I'm late.
It's quite all right.
Kids,
We
all right?
kept ourselves busy.
They're kids.
We're getting a bunch of vaccines, Matt's with them, so. All right, so been cold. We've been working on the eelgrass management plan. We're hoping to hear this week from the Great Harbor Yacht Club that it's 100% funded. Pretty sure it is, so it's an aggressive timeline trying to get that done for July 1st. Let's see. Oh, I was going through some of the landings. We got maybe like 12 to 15 fishermen to give me November and December. There's still a bunch that we're missing, but I think there's probably on the high end, about 5,000 bushels that came out. On the low end, not having all the information, it's about 3,600. So I think we're working on a better way to track that. I've had some meetings with some companies that specialize in fishery apps that can link them to the DMF so that you don't have to report to multiple places at once. So we're looking to see if we can, if there's something like that, that would work for us and for the recreational people.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. The issue with reporting to DMF is we report in pounds.
Yeah, which I think is okay.
Yeah, but you can't report when you do you have to report who you sold the fish to and they want the weights.
Yeah.
When I do my catch reports with the state, I report who the buyer was. And then they want it in pound weights, they don't want it in
Yeah,
bushels because you're selling.
we did talk about that during the meeting. And trying to figure out exactly what the reporting requirements were and the different layers that you could include. Other than that, things are just starting to crank up the hatchery. We're getting ready to start our algae culture. And we're doing ribbed mussels this spring for trying to get that in the pipeline for doing resiliency projects with a shellfish component outside of oyster work. And we will probably be doing a dredge study in May. After we do our scallop survey. But I have a question, but I can ask it later. It's just related to opening the scallops, if you guys have seen any of the black spots on the mussels. And if so, how frequently does it occur? I saw some scallops that came from Tuckernuck the other day that looked pretty awful.
I've been opening it for a month. You open it, right?
Yeah.
I get one out of maybe, if I open a 6-box limit, I maybe get 1 or 2 a limit.
Okay,
It's not a lot.
okay,
We usually just throw them in the barrel. We don't usually do. They just have the little black things in the meat.
mhm.
See more of it on the shell,
Yeah,
growing on the shell, but not usually in the meat.
okay,
But there has been some,
okay,
but not a ton.
okay.
A lot in Tuckernuck.
The meats that someone sent me a picture of had like usually you see like a couple spots, but this was like all over and like not on the edge. It was like.
When you find them, they're through the whole meat.
Yeah.
But just very few.
It's common to vineyard too.
Yeah,
Is it, do we know what it is?
yes and no. It's it's a parasite that they've been documenting down in the Peconic. It's a kidney parasite, but it migrates to different areas. We haven't really seen it. We only see it in like the 2nd and 3rd year scallops. You don't see it in the new stuff. They have to be around for a while. And so they have samples from us. We send them every season from both harbors to look for it. And I've only seen it in a few that were opening, you know, from the dock and stuff, but
Do you want us to save some for you?
yeah, I might pass around some bags to the shanties maybe and just have them freeze them. I'm
Do
just
you want
curious
the whole
about,
scallop with it?
no,
Just the meat?
yeah, just the meat.
Oh, okay. I remember from push raking in October, twice. A little less than a bushel each time, and I got, 3 or 4 in each partial bushel. From second hand.
It's what's expressing itself in the meat is a phase of the life cycle that they have yet to describe. So,
Is there a suggestion on throwing it away? Cause honestly, I have to say, I just cut it off and saved it.
I think if you cut it off, it's fine.
Yeah,
So I have seen, we get a little bit of it in the top of the meat or the bottom of the meat, and cutting off the shell. And usually, to me, you'll find it's also on the shell. There's that black.
yes.
Well, I think there's a couple different things going on, like the shell, when it breaks and it's thin, there is a blister on the inside of the shell that you can pierce, and sometimes there's like sulfur type stuff. But there's a blister worm in there, and that's like a different type of parasite.
So what Andy's talking about is on the outside, when you cut the knife off the top of the shell. Mostly it's usually on the bottom of the shell, it seems like. There's a little layer of black on the
Oh,
shell.
okay.
And you just trim it off the meat. That's what you're talking
Yeah.
about. What Tara's talking about is through the whole muscle, there's little black,
Yeah,
like
Mm,
specks.
okay.
And that's
Didn't
what
see
I
that.
see, maybe, like I said, 1 or 2 at the most out of a limit. But we do get them every now and
yeah, it looks like this in the meat, but that's under a microscope, so it's like kind of,
Wow.
then.
Oh,
Yeah,
Okay.
Jimmy's got a
didn't
better,
see that.
Jimmy's got a better picture of it.
yeah, so this is what it looks like little globs of.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's scary. John, did you have something you wanted to add specific to this conversation?
Yes, particularly to this conversation. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, John Logan. This was something that was identified clearly in my shanty with the guys that are opening for us. And we came across more than 2 or 3 per limit. It was a number of them. And I'm sorry I didn't document it, but I was always asking, how many of these, we call them Dalmatians, because they're spotted.
What they look, yeah.
How many Dalmatians did you get today? How many did you get today? In November, it was probably at least a dozen to 2 per limit. And that number has decreased not only with the change of where we're fishing, but also in later in the season. So I think they've gone away for whatever reason, but also when we started dispersing our fishing areas, they become less prevalent. So there's something that we can probably better document for you, Tara.
Okay.
And when we get them, I'll say, where'd you fish today
Okay,
and how many did you get?
Yeah, I think,
And it's a curious aspect for me because I'm like, I've never seen this before.
no, you're right.
It's a
the
new
first year
thing,
that we've
and
seen
if it's starting to come up from Peconic, that fishery's kind of gone now, so let's get ahead of it if we can find out what the cause of it is.
Mhm.
Yeah, let my shanty know as well to count how many and where the area we fished.
Okay, that'd be great,
That might have a lot to do with it
thank
too.
you.
So this isn't just a scab like I was.
Yeah, well, you're talking about, Andy, we've seen that for years. and
Yeah.
So usually on the top of the bottom of the
Yeah.
shell. You saw the picture.
Yeah,
Jimmy.
yeah.
Those came from the vineyard, Jimmy?
Yeah.
They have a lot of them over there?
I think that was a miniature. He said like 1 out of 10's like that over there.
Wow.
Mr. Chairman.
Peter.
And you, Sarah, you talked about the Peconic scalpers a lot. And are you thinking that this is what did them in down there? Because you had mentioned the brown tide that had been a thing that had really affected them.
I think, so the kidney parasite, from what I understand in the meetings I've been in, has been documented for a very long time. It's just more prevalent now. And the problem in the Peconic Bay, they're not linking directly to the parasite, but also to in combination with like thermal stress in the middle of summer. And with this parasite's life cycle, kind of, it's like a combination of just like a bad formula. We've known that we have it, you know, but it's just a question of, are we gonna see more of it and what is it gonna do to the scallops?
John,
And just to add on to that, I've advised everybody in my shanty, if they come across one of these things, put it in the barrel. Just ditch it, but we will start saving them for you so
Yeah.
you can investigate further. Thanks.
okay,
That's it, sorry.
okay,
It's not a lot of information.
okay,
for
that's
this
it
week.
for your report?
Yeah.
Okay.
Unless you have questions about anything specific.
I have one question. Do you track water temp?
Yes,
Is it colder this year than it has been in years past?
I mean, I would have to look back at the trends and stuff, but
It seems like. it.
yeah.
last
it
4 years,
appears-
definitely.
yeah.
Well, we didn't have. Last year, as a result of all the strandings. I was in the employ of the Natural Resources Department, so I was walking the beaches almost every time it blew over 20 from the northeast to the northwest, from the north to the east. And we didn't have any ice at all. And then the other day I walked up, went down far away, went down those stairs and tried to walk up to Walwinet. And the ice extends out 500-600 feet, and then there's big chunks on the beach, so it's definitely colder, if we're getting ice.
I don't think they had any red flag days like, maybe one last year.
Well, the one upside to it is that if you do get a big blow with that layer of ice along the beach, you're not gonna get the strandings because the
Yeah.
ice keeps the scallops in the deeper water. I just was curious. It seems to me like it's colder and I was always told by the old timers that a good cold winter is healthy for the harbor. And we haven't had a cold winter in quite a few years, so. It seems like we've had more off days this year than I can remember in a long time. Last year we had what, 3 or 4 for the whole year? This year we've had. Back on back on back. Last week we got out 2 days. This week it looks like it's gonna be about the same. Week before that was about the same, so.
And something else, some of the strong blows we've had have been from the west. And looking at the wind for next week that we're gonna get, it's from the west, or west southwest,
Well, last winter was all out of the southeast. I mean, it's in south.
It'll get cold in the southeast. One thing I have noticed a lot of dead crabs this year, now that the water's cold. Dead green crabs, dead blue claws. Seems like it shocked a lot of stuff. Kind of did a fluke the other day. Interesting.
Looking at the forecast, it looks like you may only get Friday out of this week. Which we did not. Add to our agenda preparations for extending the season. We'll talk about that at the end, though. To see if we should, continue discussion on that. Any more comments, questions on Natural Resources Report?
I have one more question.
Peter, please.
I heard from a scalper yesterday, that there's some DMF guy coming down.
News to me.
Mhm.
I haven't heard.
Were they referring to for extending the season, maybe?
Something related to that,
Something related to what?
related to, looking at our populations and trying to determine if we need to extend the season.
Well, I have not been contacted by anyone
Okay,
from the DMF. The only members that come down are for water quality.
maybe you heard something but didn't know what to attribute it to.
I would imagine that would be typical, that they would notify your department,
I mean, I guess if they're looking for numbers.
right?
And a boat.
Yeah,
Yeah,
And
okay. Well, we know how rumors
I will follow up.
happen on Nantucket. Okay. If we're done with the Natural Resources Report. Any public comments? We've talked about the Vineyard Wind and wind turbine letter. Submerged boat wreckage, anything new on that anybody knows?
I'm very
I think I did first about that.
Okay. Amendments to, in new business, amendments to town shellfish regulations. This is back on the agenda for more discussion and review. Tara, where do we leave off? What do we need to?
It's up to you guys how you wanna go through this. I have printed out copies and then I have like a 4-sheet of a summary of the changes that we've made. I can go through that. There are a few things, like I said, that probably won't get put in the interest of time and need to be, addressed separately, like, I feel like compensation is gonna hold us up just because I just feel like it is. It's not that we don't wanna talk about it, I just, I think we need to get some of these enforcement violations in place for the seasons that are coming up. And then we can go back and look at, like, there's, some questions about the apprentice program that I think need a little more time to be worked out too. So however you guys want to spend this meeting is fine with me. I'm happy to like zip right through it. And then if you want to go back and ask a question, we can do that, or you can take this home and look at it and get back to me, whatever.
I think we should go through the revisions. We don't have any ones on the agenda.
What's that,
I
Jim?
was saying, maybe we should go through the revisions, okay, nothing else on the agenda for tonight.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. We can spend some time on this for sure.
Might end a lot of questions for next time.
It'd make it pretty painless for you.
Why don't you walk us through?
Alright. I do. Someone else say that? Okay.
You don't have it memorized, Jim?
Yeah, I have the old copier here. A lot of notes on it.
The share the summary.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we're good.
Okay, in the entire document, the Board of Selectmen, was updated and changed to Select Board to reflect the current language. Shellfish Warden was changed to Shellfish Constable to reflect the state language. The references to wherever it said Bay Scallop Growth Ring has been changed to Bay Scallop Growth Line, again, to reflect the state language in the, regulations. The numbering, spacing and font is all over the place right now, so just know that that will be, changed before it goes to the select board. All right, if we turn the page to, let's see, the 4th page, where you see the red edit first. Under Part 2, general regulations applying to recreational, commercial and aquaculture licenses. The only change that was made is, we will change the word display to possess, possession of license. And then down below at 264.5, we just added the word area. If you flip it over, we get into closures and red flag. I know that this is also on the agenda, I think, for some discussions. But for now, we added clarification of the location of the red flag in Matticat, which is the Jackson's Point Byron Coffin Pier. And we added the sentence, if a closure is related to a seed stranding, then we added, let's see. Red flags can be raised or lowered by the Shellfish Constable or its designee from the natural resources. If a closure is implemented due to a shellfish stranding and an emergency seed move is required, then an additional fishing day may be considered for a future Saturday.
All right, I have some numerous questions about this. I mean, I know. Start.
Do you, before you start, do you want to go through this whole thing and we can flag that and come back to it?
Sounds great.
Okay, because otherwise we might not get through it.
Yeah.
All right, temperature restrictions, I'm sure this one will be flagged too. It's just We had some problems with this, with where the temperature buoy was going to be coming from. I think the current thought process is that it's weather underground. And I put in the Hussey Street Station, which seems to be closest to town. And I put the number of the buoy down there, but it's weather underground.
It was weather underground, because we had that discussion where it was determined before the last, I just have it in my head because of the last meeting, and Dave said that there was a variation from the steamship authority gauge, but we had the discussion about how over it, JC was using the temperature gauge at the Natural Resources Department, so the conversation finally worked around to the NOAA gauge.
Just flag it. Yeah. It's coming out.
Just flag it.
Okay,
We got-
sorry.
this is-
We'll
That's
flag
okay.
it.
You're right, Peter.
You're right, yeah.
We'll flag it.
Okay, the base stop strandings, we just added the Natural Resources Department or the Shellfish Constable, can determine whether it's a stranding or not. And then moving on to 260, let's see. 264.21 catch reports provided to the town. I had a hard time with this one because I want the catch reports monthly, but I'm not getting them. But I don't want to put anything in case we do find like an app this year. I just don't want to change the regulations twice, so I took everything out and just put a catch report for the previous season must be on file prior to any commercial license renewal. So that's all that's gonna be for now. All right, section B, we added recreation scallop dredge retired scalloper free under licenses. And then let's see, okay. If you turn the page to also the recreational catch reports is also, I just took that out because right now you don't have to do anything. And until we figure out the best way, I'm just gonna table that. The recreational scallop dredge license, retired commercial scalloper on the next page, was added completely. It's just outlining how you get the permit, what the requirements are, what the regulations are. I think it's pretty self-explanatory. Four point 25 is the next section. Harvest criteria by species. We only changed a few things, or I should say clarified. This is for soft shell clams. We just clarified you can have 1 10-quart bucket or 1/4 bushel. So we added the 1/4 bushel, and then also for special considerations, we added taking by shovel or plunger is permitted. Down below, razor clams.
Yeah.
Same thing, added 1/4 bushel. Oysters added 1/4 bushel, and then for conch, we wrote as defined 322 CMR 6.21 to reflect the state regulations.
Will you flag this recreational scallop dredge license? Is there some things in there?
Yeah. Okay, in the same table, JC asked to remove blue crab from it. And then green crabs, we added a letter of authorization from DMS must be obtained for harvesting green crabs by pot. And so a copy of this needs to be on file with the Natural Resources Department if
Is
you're
that
gonna do
is
that.
that a state law?
It is a state law, it's ridiculous.
To be.
Because no other town on the Cape enforces this, so
I
why
know.
are we enforcing it?
I mean, I guess if it's
Because we
by,
have a shellfish constable that wants to be just a pain in the
I
butt?
don't know, I guess because if it's by pot, it's a problem, but
Yeah, but I know 100 fishermen on the Cape that use green crabs for bait.
Mhm.
And they all set traps in ponds and bays and harbors in every one of those capes on the Cape, and then none of them have permits. And the wardens don't care because they know they're an invasive species.
I think,
But here we're enforcing it. We're telling a kid who's 12 years old, has got one potty in the dock to catch
Yeah.
it for detog, and he's gonna go to jail because he's using a pot.
I
It's ridiculous.
I agree it's a problem, but I think it might come down, like it was, I think it's probably related to blue crabbing, like with pots. And so they're not
A
allowing.
green crab trap has a hole this big in it. It doesn't have a hole this big. in it.
Yeah,
I just have a hard code.
Anybody can get a license, so I mean, you can apply,
Yeah,
you just
it's-
apply for the license, you can get a
I
license, there's
know,
nothing to it.
it's not mine.
I know, it's
Yeah.
just,
Can I make-
why
It's
do we
wrong.
enforce
Can I
it?
make a quick comment on this?
Yeah,
Well,
Does the town have
we know why.
any,
Go ahead,
And-
just grab a copy, John.
Like that, I just.
this is shellfishing, green
This
crabs
is, we're
or
on
crabs,
this,
how is
John,
the
we're
town
going.
in jurisdiction?
148.
I don't know, I'm happy to like,
Cause I can sell lobster pots I want in the harbor, can't do anything about it. That area 2 permit.
Why are we
So it shouldn't be
eliminating
in
blue
here.
crab?
Well, you can't pop blue
I
crabs.
think
in
they
state of
just wanted to
Massachusetts.
state, because there are some people that are trapping green crabs for a variety of reasons, that they want to make sure that they have the LOA.
Which I get, if you're setting 50 traps for green crabs, because you're using them for whatever, but I just.
I mean, government.
They tell us to smash every one when they come up on the
Right.
Cullen board, but a kid wants to set a, I mean, I went through this last year when one of the kids came. Like, I got yelled at because I had a crab trap and I'm like,
We
really?
gonna start going for minnow traps too at some point, I mean, where's the line on that?
Is there a reason we don't have mussels? on-
Continuing on,
Are they not at all, government?
Mussels.
I missed that.
I just don't see them in this list.
Blue mussel, yeah, it's on there. It's, this table got split up, so,
Oh.
It's on the
oh,
other
okay.
page.
All right.
All right, well,
all right, I will
That's
flag
my-
that.
that's my rant. on
No,
green
I
crabs.
agree with
Oh, there it
you.
is.
I think
Okay,
it's
so-
ridiculous.
Wait. We're saying that you can't take blue crabs. Is that what we're saying?
Can't pot them.
Not allowed to pot them.
Okay.
So why are we taking it out of the regulation?
That's a JC question.
I disagree.
Well, it doesn't say, it doesn't say you can't take them by pot, it just.
I
it's-
think he thinks that, it's regulated by the state, you're allowed 25 using a variety of measures, but not a pot.
Well,
Anyway.
I know we're flagging
State
it.
regulation rules anyway, so it doesn't matter what we say.
You
It's a
can be
state
more
regulation.
you can be more
We're-
restrictive. as
But we're
a
not,
town,
we're
but
not, we don't intend
yeah.
to be, right?
Yeah,
No one is ever around when I see the stuff that I see. The people taking the crabs that are as big as that mouse. And bigger. And anyway, we have a regulation, but. Anyway,
I've had several people tell me they've seen indication that a lot of blue crab taking is taking place
Yeah.
and namely the all over pond. Which one person that frequents that brought this up to me said he feels that pond is like a nursery for the harbor. He sees a lot of marine life in there and was concerned at the waste that's being left behind. I'm not quite sure. I can't remember exactly how he explained it. What's being, they break the legs off them and only take the body or vice versa.
Everybody I see takes them out whole, and I see a lot of them leave,
Yeah,
and they'll take them whole. So I don't know what he's talking about, really. I mean, I know it's fished well, but.
Yeah.
Pulpus Harbor too.
Well, anyway,
excellent.
all right, the next one is 260-429 Bay Scout Regulations Commercial. We added commercial Bay Scout applications and commercial scalp apprentice applications must have all required information complete. So we added that part. Filed and paid in full with the town of Nantucket was added. And then for late applications, we added for an apprentice may still gain apprentice hours during this time. If you file late, you just can't take your catch.
So that's contrary to what he told me. So. I took a high school student scalloping over Christmas break.
Mhm.
He fished with me 3 days. He doesn't have a license. He hasn't applied for a license. I called JC to say he had gone with me. He said, does he have a license? I said, no. He said, well, the days don't count. That's a problem for me. I think anyone who wants to go scalloping with a commercial scalloper for the day and goes out there and you get a limit, we got our 6 boxes each day. The kid was in the boat, he learned how to cull, he learned the difference between an adult and a seed. He learned how to tow the right way, not the wrong way. He was hauling dredges. If he does that for 20 days with me over the next 2 years while he's in school, when he graduates, I should be able to sign off for him and he should be able to go get a license and go fish in his own boat without having to pay $250 and fill out all these applications.
First.
It's like
There
working
needs
your way
to
up
be
for a
some
captain's
way that
license.
I, as a commercial scholar, can
Yeah.
say, whether I take his picture every day or whatever, to verify that he's got his 20 days in.
Yeah, I have no problem with
I
that.
agree.
So we just need to figure out how to put that into the reg.
That's one of the things that we're flagging for the apprentice program,
Okay.
because JC has a different thought process with being licensed for that. And so,
I mean, it's one thing if the guy buys a license like now and next year he wants to start on November 1st and he's going as a second hand in the boat. That's a whole different animal because he's actually getting a limit. That all makes sense to me, but someone who just wants to go. I mean, that's how I learned, that's how Jimmy learned, that's how my son learned, was going during school breaks and
Cause he's just working, helping your limit.
yes, we're
Right,
not getting
right.
more than this, than
Right,
we're
not
allowed.
getting 2 limits.
But
You're
he's
getting-
in the
right.
boat, he's learning how to do it,
Right,
you
no,
know, it's the
absolutely.
same,
Absolutely.
it's the same process, you're just not getting the second limit.
Right, right.
Are you talking on an age? Um.
Well, we're
age
gonna take-
Specific, or are you saying like a high school kid? or-
No, I mean, it used to be, I don't know what, do we even, it used to be you could get a
14.
commercial license at 14, so anyone 14 and older who's going scalloping should, if they wanna go with someone just to go, I mean, Bruce was taking one of the kids in your shanty today.
That's a good job.
Yeah, you took them, so these kids should get credit for
50
that,
hours, yeah.
and it should count towards their 20 days of fishing,
25,
or 25, whatever we finally decided, yeah.
I agree. I think that can be hashed out.
But wait. Sorry, but didn't it used to be 40?
Yes.
Yeah, we
Well,
changed
We
it,
changed that.
It's not
well, we haven't changed
officially
it,
changed.
but we
It's in the edit.
suggested that 25
Many
days,
times.
cause that's still 5 full weeks of fishing.
Okay,
All right, we're ready to move on?
I have a-
Okay.
I have a
Oh,
question.
sorry.
So you use the word permit through, but basically everything, meaning a permit you have to have. But then in blue down there, apprentice must have a valid license to begin. What do you mean by license? A driver's license or is
Scalper
permit
license.
being a, that's, I'm just wordsmithing that, so.
Right, I will add that to the document check. Okay, so under apprentices, which is, needs some work, we changed from 45 active fishing days to 25, which I don't think is a problem. Apprentices and mentors must review commercial scalloping best management practices and sign off on completing this review. We have not developed the best management practices yet. However, I think that could be done in a half an hour with scallopers, talking about not getting on other people's toes, culling not close to shore, just coming up with a list of things that are common sense and courteous out on the water. And then, you know, whoever's teaching them is expected to pass on that knowledge during those 25 days. And then I think that's it, except for, you know, we had just talked about how the apprentice can gain hours if entering the fishing season as a late start, but may not take the limit until 30 days after the late start application is filed with NRD. Proof of the 25 fishing days includes a combination of the following. This was added by JC. Being directly checked is one of the ways. A catch report showing the harvest of the mentor and apprentice with the tag and sales receipt. I know JC is also accepting pictures of the catch on the date. So maybe that's something that we decide to add. And then any violation that occurs during the apprentice period shall make that day not count against the 25 required days.
I have a question.
Yes.
You know, JC has his feelings about the regulations and what we're trying to change. But that's just. Those feelings are just his recommendation. that goes to the select board. The select board don't have to go with what he says. They can weigh what we say against that. If we
100%.
if we have a unified front on the various things that we want to do, you know, it's our feelings against his, right? So
Yeah.
it's not like JC says it and it's gonna
No.
happen.
No, and I asked JC to be here tonight so that we could streamline this conversation, and he's not here, so
Well,
doing the best I can to try and like.
no, I
get this
understand, I'm
stuff
just trying to
out.
understand.
Section E here. I don't have a problem with what's redlined, the 6:30 or sunrise, but there's a contradiction here. It says dredges may be deployed between 6:30 AM and 4:30 PM. But then it says all commercial bait boats must be offloaded by 4:30 PM.
Okay,
So you're deploying dredges to the time of 4:30, but you gotta be.
Gotta get in
at
time
the
at 4:30.
I think that needs to,
need some wording,
or cut back to 4 PM,
okay,
offloaded by 4:30. Because,
Yeah, you know, I'll put it.
yeah,
okay.
um,
I mean, do most people, is this common knowledge that if, you know, the sun rises after 6:30, obviously people aren't out there in the dark waiting, or,
well, forever it was 6:30 regardless of the dark. We all,
right?
I think everyone that fishes now knows that it's 30 minutes after whatever you, I mean, we all just look at our phone and it tells us what time sunrise is and subtract 30 minutes. I mean, it's. The older I get, the harder I have time seeing.
There's really no
Yeah.
reason to talk about when to drop, the last time you can drop the dredge, as long as you're back to the dock by 4:30.
Yeah,
That's captain's choice, right?
yeah,
Yeah,
Drop the dredge at 4:15, you're not gonna make 4:30.
right, that's why I think if you just put it,
Just say
I mean,
4:30.
I always thought it was 4 o'clock, we couldn't throw a dredge after 4 o'clock, that was always my.
I think as long as you're back at 4:30.
Yeah.
Keep it simple.
Okay,
Man,
yes,
back at the dock or landed by,
It says offloaded points,
offloaded by 4:30,
must be offloading points.
offloading.
Arrive at the
So,
offloading point.
I mean, because I've been harassed before, sorry, Mr. Chairman. I have been previously harassed, not by the current warden, but by previous warden, that I was not, offloaded by 4:30, even though I was at the dock at 4:30. So.
That's a stretch.
Well, this is clearly offloading point. You must be at the offloading point
By
Yeah,
by
4:30.
4:30.
That makes sense.
Page 150, John.
all right. Moving on to letter F, returning to shore to pick up colors. This was something we discussed in SHAB. A license holder may return to shore to pick up a color with 5 bushels or defined single limit of bay scallops. May be on board when the color boards the vessel. JC added license holder must notify the Shellfish constable if he or she plans to resume so that the boat may be checked upon arrival.
Okay, here's the question I have on that. So I've done this year because Ray works in the fire department, so when he gets off in the morning, his 8 o'clock shift, I come in and pick him up at 8:30. So the first time I did it, I went through the procedure, I texted JC, and that day I fished on Hussey Shoal and I came back to the end of the dock and grabbed him, went back out. No issues. The next time I did it, I was up at Pocomo fishing under the bluff. And I texted JC, but I was picking Ray up, Pocomo Point. Put my phone back in my waterproof bag and went to fishing. When I got in, I got a text back from JC saying, okay, but from now on, you have to come back to the dock to pick him up. So why do I have to come all the way back to the dock to pick him up? If I had my boat in Pulpus Harbor, I could have gone to Pulpus Harbor and picked him up. I think you should be able to pick him up from wherever. I don't want to have to drive 20 minutes all the way back to town to pick him up, to go all the way back up to Pocomo.
Is that because, or do you think that that's because JC would like the opportunity to witness that?
Well, that's fine, but I texted him a half hour ahead of time saying
Yeah.
I was picking up at Pocomo, so he could have gone to Pocomo if he wanted. I just think, you know, if I'm fishing at Folgers and Ray wants to drive down to Foley Mill and walk out to the beach and I just go in and get him,
That makes
Yeah.
sense.
I don't know why I'd have to go to one particular spot. I mean, I texted him and I agree with the whole texting thing.
Yeah,
Go pick him
so
up.
you're letting him know that you're doing it.
Right.
You're not, I mean,
And we're still, and it's not like one of the things is I didn't go back and I think we need to put it in here. I think you'd be able to pick them up wherever you want, but you have to land back at the dock together. In other words, I couldn't take him to his truck at Pocomo, unload
Right.
his 5 boxes, send him on his way, and then me come to town. So what we did was we came into the dock, unloaded, went to the shanty, and then I went to Pocomo to pick up his truck. So I think you should be able to pick them up anywhere, but you still have to land together at the dock. That way the warden can check and make sure you're not loading, taking scallops off.
Is that what this last sentence means? He wants to check after you've come in for fishing for the day, or does he want to check the boat when you're picking up the color?
I read it as coming in for the day, but we can clarify that.
I think
Okay,
probably either say that would be the.
well, and that's why, you know, and he obviously he wasn't clear about you picking up your color on Pocomo Point or at Fulling Mill. I mean, the way I read this, you know, you're only supposed to have your defined single limit on board when the color boards the vessel, no more than what you can get yourself. The license holder must notify the Shellfish constable if he or she plans to resume so that the boat may be checked upon arrival. See, it plans to resume. So to me, this is a little confusing. Sounds
Okay.
like he wants to check the boat at the dock, make sure you don't have more than your single limit on board. It's all one long sentence, so in a way, so there is a period after vessel, but
We can clarify that.
okay.
All right, letter H, transferring of scallops. We decided no transferring of catch from one boat to another except in emergency. Next page. This one was already approved at the select board on October 16th. And this actually is not the exact wording, but we will put that in, but it's basically just saying that the select board has the right to increase or decrease the catch limit each season under recommendations.
So if we want to start at 6 boxes next year, we have to decide that in like September.
Yeah,
I'll go
we
select.
do our surveys in September, beginning of September now. And so we should have a good idea about a lot, probably by the 3rd week of September, but definitely beginning of October.
Yeah, because we'll have to figure out our whole schedule because the selectmen were very good to us this year and took an emergency meeting with us, but we want to make sure we get it done to get on their schedule if we decide we want to start at 6 boxes.
Okay, perfect.
Mr. Chairman. A question for, I don't know who, but why is it that we can't just start where the state has a limit at 10? Why does the town need to bring it down to 5 or 6 or determine less than what the state already allows other communities?
I think like the fishery used to be really, really big, and I think that there's a lot of pressure on the eelgrass. You know, when I came, it was always 5 bushels. I didn't know it to be anything different, and I think now that we're getting a handle on the population and the size of the fishery that we have more information to make those decisions to go up and down. I don't know that we would ever start at 10, like, I don't know. It's something that we'd have to discuss and talk about.
Okay, but with that in mind, you know, the pressure on the eelgrass, we're talking opening day, 24 boats, not the 100 that was 10 years ago. So the number of fleet fishing now is tremendously less than what it had been. And I think having said that, being able to spread out and not hammer in one place day after day after day, we have an opportunity to actually, if you have the market and the ability to open and sell, to get what you can, sell, open what you can, sell what you can. And I think it might be something to be considered because of the size of the fleet now is not what it was when this might have been instituted to protect the eelgrass.
I agree. I definitely agree. There's room for discussion in that. I do see everybody fishing together. Like, I don't think people are super creative and going in a million different places. It seems like most of the fleet, like at least for the beginning of the season, is all off of Fulling Mill or Abrams, like it's just concentrated there. And every time I drive up Harbor, that's where I see everybody. I don't see people in, you know, Holbert Ave, you know, where meets are super huge and you can get a limit there. Like I don't see people spread out. But I think like with the eelgrass management plan and looking, you know, I think that eelgrass has also changed since back in the day. I think it's a lot more sensitive and thin. So I think like there's additional considerations to think about just as a whole picture.
In my 40+ years of scalloping, we were 6 bushels and 12 for a long time. Then we went to 5 and 10, not because of damage to the eelgrass, but more about market
Yeah.
and extend the season. And only once in my lifetime did we go to 10, maybe twice. One time in Matticat, I think in like March. And one year when I was still in high school in December in Matticat again, where we had just an extreme amount of scallops and we knew we wouldn't catch them all, but
I mean, how exciting is that to be able to say, yes, we can have 10 bushels for a limit, you know? It's
Mr. Chairman.
Peter.
I don't know, I'm just thinking that if you say it's 10, then it might send a message to everybody out there that there is a lot out there when there really isn't.
we have the ability to go to 10.
Right.
If need be.
Just saying, I agree with John, but, you know, now that we've established, you know, we have the ability to go up or down. I say we keep it at what we perceive to be the amount of scallops in there, and if you make it big, then maybe it's a build it. If you build it, they will come type of thing. If you say, yeah, 10 bushels, you know, I don't know, I mean, people maybe not.
Well, this was a perfect example this year of when we went to 6 boxes, it didn't really change the market. The guys that were shipping scallops off island pretty much, my price never changed. If your price never changed when we went to 6, it went up, it went up. So, this was the whole reason why we talked about this last year was the ability to go to 6 in November, December, when the market is strong. We all made more money. And now the market is down again because it's after January. So, you know, I like the idea that we're gonna have this. We're gonna have a sample early in September. We can look at it and we can decide if we want to go to 6 or 7 or whatever. We can make that decision prior to the season opening and be in a position to maximize our return for our effort.
I like it.
Okay,
All right, we're segueing into dredges, and I'm just gonna say my piece on what I think about this. I think we have a regulation for the original dredges that people have used for a number of years. So instead of trying to describe a new dredge or a variation, we just decided that until we can complete some dredge studies and figure out what is going on, that we're gonna add this paragraph that says any alteration to the described dredges above must be inspected, photographed, and weighed by the Shellfish Constable prior to the start of commercial season. A letter of alteration, including pictures, must be submitted to NRD for approval prior to use to avoid violation of use. Dredges should not cause harm to existing eelgrass beds. It's too complicated to like write in a dredge that we don't know anything about. The dredges that you guys are using, everybody is shifting to them and they're not in the regulation. So technically it's a violation.
It's not in it either.
but you're
Yeah.
saying
Doesn't say it
is if
here.
you submit it and you guys approve it,
It's
it's
okay for
legit.
now until we make a determination on it, but like I feel forced into doing this dredge study because you guys are like switching to a dredge without like us knowing anything about it or doing a study on the bottom. So I don't really have a choice.
Can I make a comment?
Yeah.
On this? In here, it says, in the previous description of a dredge, it has nothing in there about design parameters at all, except for the width.
Okay,
That's the only thing in there,
well,
And
in
the
the
weight.
weight.
In the way.
in the way, but there's nothing in there that says you can't use chain sweep, pressure plate,
But
different chain bag.
What
anything.
about, what
Tara's
about
saying,
connected
she's
by
saying it's
an
okay for now, so.
Right, I'm just saying the previous regulation
No, it's
never
fine, but
had
I think like,
But hold on,
anything in there
Tara,
about it.
sorry,
Go ahead, Peter.
you're saying Are you saying it's okay for now, or is JC saying it's okay
We're
for
both
now?
saying it's okay for now because we're going to conduct a study on it.
Okay.
I don't think that puts me in a very good position to do a study on dredges that you guys are using, because if something comes out of it, I'm gonna look like an asshole, and I don't want to. So I would like to find a third party to do the study, but again, like I don't have a choice. Like, I feel like
Right.
we're dealing with eelgrass, we're doing an eelgrass management plan. This is an integral part of it, so.
But can't there be some way to say that, pending final results of study or something like that, so everybody understands that, okay, good, the fishery is moving toward these dredges and they're working out. But we, the Natural Resources Department, want to make sure that we're making the right decision doing this. And so we want you to understand that it may or may not change. Then you won't be coming out like an asshole. You're saying, be aware, something like that.
Yeah.
Well, so. I don't wanna put you between a hard spot and a rock either. I mean,
Have you
there
thought,
was never a study on the old dredges.
But
you
it's,
know.
it's a change in, how we're scalloping, like historically, it's important to note. But also like the fact that they're more efficient in sand, like the scallops are in the eelgrass too, so we're fishing in eelgrass with these dredges, like you can't say that you're just in the sand. So I think we need to understand why they're using them on the Cape, because they don't have eelgrass probably, and they
But
are.
they
more
don't use
efficient.
this dredge on the Cape. This is
Well-
well, they do and they don't, because they
Yes.
use this dredge on the Cape, but they pull a grass bar in front of it. And they use a dredge that is twice the size of this dredge. So this. I guess my concern is, I know you don't wanna do a study, but what are you gonna do? You're gonna drag it through some eelgrass and see what it does to the bottom?
I mean, we have people lined up that do these studies and they set them up and they're, advising us on how to conduct the study.
I mean, the only thing really that changes on this dredge is if it's under the width and it's under the weight, the only thing that changes is the outside 2 rings are longer than 7 rings because of the angle of it comes up. So it,
I thought it was, we're getting down in the weeds here in the eelgrass, and that's not what this is about, right? That's not. We're looking for wording that's gonna let these things keep going this year. They've been used. These guys are admitting to using them. You do need to study them. You're going to study them. It says right here, gotta send pictures and a description and get it approved, basically. And I think you ought to be doing that now, personally. I think you should be submitting pictures, description of the extra links or whatever, and submit that to Natural Resources. And it looks like it's almost a rubber stamp. It is a rubber stamp for this year, from what I'm hearing. But it's gonna be, it could go away. If they do a study and
It
they
could be
say
a
this thing
non-issue.
destroys
well,
something.
so I walked the docks today because it was cold and I had to go down the boat basin. And I looked at the boats in the boat basin. There's maybe, out of the 20 boats, 15 boats are in the boat basin. There's only 4 of us that are still fishing the old 8 dredges. Everybody else is fishing 4 dredges, not 8. Some guys are fishing 6, but mostly everybody's fishing 4 of these dredges. So the whole reason that we always fished 8 dredges was because when you put 4 in a line, and when guys used to fish 10 and 12 and 13, that's why we went to 8, was because the back dredges, the front dredges catch all the grass, and the back dredges catch the scallops because there's nothing left after the front dredges go through. So in my mind, seeing how these dredges fish, and they do fish it in grass. They're not ripping grass out by the roots. Guys are, I think they're more efficient and they're more friendly to the bottom because you're not towing 8 of them in a row. And digging in and ripping, I mean, that when this, later in the year. When the grass thins out. Those back dredges dig in and they, I don't care even if they're under 35 pounds, they rip a lot of grass out by the roots. Where we're using 4 of these dredges and they're playing, the planers are pushing them down and the chains are sweeping through them. I'm sure some grass comes out, but I mean. Really. The only difference is, like I said, if the dredge is under 35 pounds and it's under 28 inches. Those 2 outside, is it 2 or 3, Jimmy? outside rings
Only-
come up,
It's actually, yeah, there's.
Two sets-
Three.
3 sets of rings, so one will have
Three
7,
more.
one will have
Yeah.
8, one will have 9. Now, as long as, to me, as long as the dredge is less than 7 inches deep at the center. And it still weighs under 35 pounds and it's still under. The length. Or
Width.
the width. The whole idea of the 7 ring was we didn't want a bag so big and so deep. That it was again gonna rip out everything by the roofs.
Yeah.
So the bag is really no deeper on this dredge except for the wings. So I just, I understand we wanna do a study on them, and I think it's great, but I also think, why should guys? We're not, it's,
Could you write that description down? Seriously, if you could write that down, that could get put in here as a. It's acceptable at this time, a study is to be conducted. I mean, look, you guys are using them. I don't know why we're sitting here talking
Yeah, I
about
think
this.
a letter of
Using them.
alteration that just says, because some people have different thickness of chain, I found out last week, making the dredges way more. So if everyone can just describe what they have, hopefully that's all uniform and the same.
so I guess then the simple thing would be, if you're gonna use these dredges before the 1st of the year, 1st of November. You have to have them weighed.
I'm telling you, my only thing I apologize for that, but my only. Reason for bringing it up is that there's no definition of the standard dredge in here,
Okay,
because that's,
Well, it does, there's a little bit, I
Doesn't
mean, it's
say-
gotta be less than 28, you can't have a width of more than 7 rings deep.
doesn't say anything about the rest of it.
And the mesh
As far
can't be,
as far as like bar size or
right, and
chain
that's,
sweep or
it's the weight.
anything else.
That's why I say if the dredge, the new dredge is
Kinda
under the weight and it's under the,
Point on that.
it's under the width, it should. The only thing
Should be
that,
fine.
the only thing that violates it is the 7 rings. Which, if we changed
Right.
it to say no
That's
more
fine.
than 7 rings deep at. At center, I just.
All
okay,
right.
are we
Gonna
okay
have
with the
to-
letter?
Gonna have to work on this some more in the future.
It'd be nice if we could figure this out before the beginning of next season.
Yeah.
We
We
will,
didn't
we
have 50 guys coming in the CJC on October 15th saying, I need you to weigh my dredges, and then, you know, it's just, I just can see
I
the
think like,
nightmare.
yeah,
Well, Sarah, if DMF visits, can they conduct the study to keep you kind of?
I don't know,
5 years from now.
yeah, I'm
Yeah, I
not
don't
sure.
think the state of
All right,
it.
well, are you
We'll
at least like racking your brain to
I
think
am.
who
I'm
else can
trying to
do
see,
this
like,
study?
What fishermen might wanna
Trying to
get paid.
pawn it off on somebody.
Uh-huh.
They-
I mean, I'll be involved. if you want me
Maybe
to
we
be. I
can,
mean, I-
maybe we can
Volunteer?
get, maybe we can get the Shellfish
I'm gonna build it the first
Association to
time.
sponsor. Cause you know, like,
Why?
the guys in Eastham that fish in the deep water are pulling a 4-foot sea scallop dredge. It's a mini, they fish 1 dredge, some of them fish 2, but they're 4 foot long and they got 20 links on them. It's just a mini version of sea scallop dredge. Those things, they're not fishing anywhere like what we fish, you know, so.
What about floppy and his underwater camera?
I mean, we have plenty of stuff to
Yeah.
do that.
All right,
survey,
go
so.
on.
TBD. All right, the next one under that is landing location of bay scallops. JC wanted me to add that all bay scallops harvested in Nantucket waters shall be landed in their shell. So we added that. And we changed town approved boxes to town approved containers in case there's some change from the milk crate down the road.
So then why say landing location of the bay scallops? Maybe it should be landing condition,
Okay,
unless you're gonna put in all the places.
no. You just want to make sure nobody was opening scallops on their boat.
Right, location is.
Okay,
There will be some cold evenings. Then on the boat.
all right, the next ones are the conch regulations that were clarified, I guess. Everything is, refers back to the state regulation. When we get down to F, it's a little more, I guess, geared towards Nantucket. The prohibition of harvest in Nantucket and Mattocket harbors. Commercial harvest of whelk/conch prohibited in Nantucket Harbor on odd number years and prohibited in Mattocket Harbor on even number years. A schedule of closures will be approved by the town of Nantucket or its designee.
Quick question,
Yes.
how do we define Mattocket Harbor?
So, Smith's Point, the old point, I believe.
So
think it's a
Tuckanut,
line.
Tuckanut doesn't count, Muskegon doesn't count,
According to the towns where they're gonna enforce it, yes.
okay. That would be good to know.
Okay,
However, from the harbor plan, updating the harbor plan, there are two study areas, what we call study areas. There's Nantucket Harbor. And then in Mattocket Harbor encompasses Tuckanuck and Muskegon, even though they're not harbors. But we're saying that because Tuckanuck and Muskegon are of the town of Nantucket, so the water's 3 miles out from the shore. So,
okay,
But-
I'll see if we can get clarification on that. Maybe it would be good to define both harbors in the beginning of the document.
Yeah,
because,
that's a good point.
because you're going,
Nantucket Harbor is easy because you just draw a line across the end of the jetties and say anything inside of this is Nantucket Harbor.
at least Tuckanuck, because you guys do go out there and fish. Right, sometimes.
Yeah,
How often do you go out to Muskegon?
but I mean, I know guys, I know Danny has set gear along Dionis and up in towards the bathtub.
Yeah,
I don't know if he goes up around around Tuckanut and Muskegon, but if we define that as the harbor, then that means you can't fish it within even years or odd years or whatever the word it says. So we need to,
Okay,
I mean, it makes sense to me, Jimmy, like you said, for Conkin purposes, just to draw from Neil Point to Smith's Point because it's an easier delineal line to say this side, that side. But just as long as we're all on the same page.
Okay, letter G below that, maximum allowable pots got changed from 90 pots to 120, split between the two harbors. Tags will be issued each season in equal number amongst those who hold a valid state conch permit and who purchase a town conch permit and may be transferable for the entirety of the conch season, which is April 15th to December 15th. Should tags be transferred, the two parties shall provide a written copy of the transfer signed by both parties to the Shellfish Constable and will be kept on file in the Natural Resources Department. This transfer is allowed once per season.
Okay, quick question.
Yes.
We have 3 licensed conch fishermen in Nantucket. 2 fish. Well, 1 fishes for sure. Matt isn't fishing his right now. Jimmy Ellis is the 3rd one, and he doesn't even have a boat. So,
He does, but it's in Florida.
so. We have 120 pots. We have 1 guy who's fishing. The other 2 aren't fishing. If they don't want to come to an agreement with the guy that is fishing, does that mean the guy that is fishing only gets to set 40 pots and the other 80 pots don't go in the water that year? Is that how it works?
I mean, I think that's an agreement between the license holders.
Well, I have a problem with that. If one guy doesn't even have a boat, doesn't even have any pots, isn't gonna fish. I think either you fish him or the guy that is gonna fish him gets to fish him. Especially since it's every other year, especially since it's a predator to scallops. I'm not saying that the other guy shouldn't fish, but if you're not gonna fish the conch season is. April 15th it starts.
Yeah,
If by February 1. March 1, you aren't committed to put gear in the water. They should let the town know. And those 40 pots should be available to the guy that is fishing. That doesn't mean he gets to keep them forever, but.
yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
Well, the same thing goes for oystering in a way. If you're not active,
You
then,
lose your lease.
yeah,
Well, you're not losing your license in this
Right.
case, but at least the waters are fished because it is every other year. So,
I think Dan and Matt. I don't know that Jim Ellis was part of the conversation, but this was drafted.
This was all done here in this room.
Yeah.
well, I just want to make sure, I know that Dan and Matt have an agreement. I don't know what Jimmy's doing, but we're writing regulations that who
Yeah.
knows where they're gonna be 5 years from now.
Right.
And I'd hate to see this
Be a problem.
be a problem
Okay.
for 2 guys that don't see eye to eye,
Got it.
so maybe when, if.
Let Tara come up with some wording and we can review it again.
right,
He's got the gist of it.
let's speed through the end of this.
You're right, because we're not gonna get this done.
The town of Nantucket commercial permit fees, we added two, which was a Shellfish combo, base golf plus one other permit for a discounted price. And then the Shellfish trio, which is base golf plus two other permits for also discounted price. Moving on, the base scallop, daily harvest limit, we changed 5 level bushes per permit or is defined by the select board. Let's see, the aquaculture section is getting reviewed. There aren't a ton of changes in there, except that we added a few fines associated with violations. One of them was failure to remove gear would be confiscated and you will get a fine. One thing that the guys need to discuss is they have a sinking date for their gear, but they don't have a raising date for their gear. So they need to figure out if they want that defined or if they just want to leave it.
Is that more weather dependent?
It is like,
Water
ice.
temp?
Yeah,
Be hard to give them, unless you give them someone that was really late, that we knew the ice was gonna be gone.
I mean, typically it's usually April. Yeah. Okay, the other thing, under aquaculture, hydraulic harvesting or pressure cleaning, there's a double word there, pressure cleaning of shellfish or gear from drain areas. This I think was always in there. We just added, for some reason it said you can shoot water, ejection of water pressure onto shellfish beds, which is incorrect. So we just changed it to fouled gear or shellfish. And also made sure that if there's pressure washing going on, that it's going on the lease area and not anywhere else.
They usually do that on their barge.
They do, but we did come across a barge in Fulpus Harbor on a mooring last year where there was some pressure washing going on. We added some clarifications to the scientific research section. It's basically just detailing, if you're doing research in Nantucket Harbor, we need to know about it. You have to file your plan. And so there are violations and fines associated with doing research and making sure you have the right license. Dissemination of data. That's pretty standard stuff. Under, let's see what else we have left. Enforcement, penalties. JC added, unless specifically listed in tables below, violation of the 260 code are subject to fines of $50 to $300. So that's just like a general statement. And then a verbal warning will be given with a first offense at the discretion of the Shellfish constable. And then we get into the actual table of the violation section. There's one for no pin, we added displayed instead of just no pin.
Wait,
We just,
Said that we don't have to have it displayed. We said it has to be in possession.
Oh, in possession.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
so. Here's a question for you. You're over 60, you get your white badge. Mine is so rusted now, I don't know if you can even read it. Can you just go in and get another one and then you give them point? You know, people want their badge because it's got their number on it. They don't want
Yeah.
to give up their number. I mean,
don't
with a family recreational, you're buying it, you get a new one every year, but I think over 60, you need to display it.
Not
And
display
it's
it.
free anyway.
You need to possess it.
You need to possess it.
Just show your driver's license
go,
and say you're over 60 and you live here.
You
You
live
don't,
here, what's the difference?
you don't really,
Don't even need it.
you know what I mean?
I'll ask.
Cause they told me that if I
Just-
lose it, just come
Like a
back. and
special
get it.
order.
Yeah, I guess,
I
but
like
I
this
think
Dredge them
anyone
up,
that's got a Nantucket address on their driver's license over
Yeah.
60 should be able to go shellfishing, whether they have the badge or not, but.
All right,
Thinking that.
for dive flags, we're asking that scuba divers and snorkelers have dive flags.
So, do we clarify, are they supposed to be attached to them or attached to the boat?
attached to the snorkeler or the diver.
Okay. And that's in our reg?
Yep.
Okay.
What's the
That's
difference?
pretty hard to do.
Is that a
What's the
regulation
difference? With a
as far as
wetsuit?
diving?
Put it
Just
in the
clip
zipper?
it to your belt
Yeah,
on a string.
Yeah.
It might be under, I don't know if
That's why
there's
it's-
anything under commercial, but
Pins in the harbor.
I think you need to have a dive flag, so distance of your, where you're diving, is the.
Isn't a snorkeler diving?
Cause I've seen it both ways. I've seen people just put a dive flag on the boat and 5 people get in the water and swim around the boat.
all right,
and then
I'll
I've seen
double
people
check on
that's
that
got it hooked to
regulation
their
and
belt.
make sure.
Mr. Logan,
Chairman, for, sake of being redundant, why not both? So that if someone is coming in upon an area where someone is snorkeling or diving, the boat has a flag and each diver has a flag.
I like that.
Just the safety aspect, I think is redundant, but I think
Okay,
beneficial.
I agree.
Oh, wait,
If a boat is flying a diver, they should have a flag on the boat, and the diver should have a flag on themselves.
different.
Well, I think that under diving. In purpose of diving, if you're with a basket and stuff underwater and a dive flag attached to you, you don't wanna have that extra stuff on you. The diver. String on the surface of the flag.
I've been doing this for years, it's not that much of an issue.
Yeah.
Am I?
The dive-
With dive gear, with
The commercial diver
Oh,
was
not
next,
that,
with dive gear, yeah, with dive gear, you don't
the
want. to have
commercial
it-
diver was next to me the other day. When I was dredging, he came in on me, he threw his hook and he was within 75 feet of me. And he had a dive tag flag attached to him,
Right, okay,
because he was swimming pretty close to me, because I was a little perturbed.
It's a safety thing.
Yeah,
Sure.
he did have one attached to him.
I think.
He didn't have one on the boat though, but I mean, I knew who it
Yeah,
was, so.
sure.
it didn't matter.
All right, moving on. I will double check that and add. JC added tampering with red flag. Sure, that's-
I like that one.
Somebody's actually tried that.
We have a definition of the dive flag size and if that should be, have to be, I mean, we're gonna get into it. Sorry.
it's okay.
All right.
All right, harvester tags on boxes, let's see, what you put, 13, container, it has to be per box. I think that didn't come out in the edit, but harvester tags on boxes, the violation is per box.
Is that? This is we're enforcing this as the town?
Yep.
Is that on our purview? Or isn't that a state regulation?
I'm not positive. That's why it'd be helpful to have JC here.
Well, this is my problem with this is, you know, JC comes down and says, I have to have my tags filled out on the box, but it's not a town bylaw, it's a state bylaw. And why is the town shellfish warden enforcing the state shellfish regulations? That's our game warden's job. And he comes down, he checks my tags, to
Okay,
make sure they're all right. So why is the town gonna write me a fine if my tags aren't on? Shouldn't the state guy be doing it?
okay.
I mean, I don't wanna be overstepping our bounds here.
I'll ask. I don't know. That's a good question. All right, failure to submit a catch report was added. Use of unregulated dredges without having a letter of alteration on file and approval of alterations with NRD per dredge. JC also added destroying evidence. I'm not really sure what that is about. And then if we move on to aquaculture violations, there weren't any really written, so these kind of mimic the state violations that have been set up. And those are pretty self-explanatory, and the aquaculture guys will review those, and I'm sure they'll have a few comments, but that is kind of it. We have a lot of areas that I've flagged.
I'm not seeing anywhere in violations. What happens to a confiscated catch? And I believe there's some questions out
Okay.
there about that. And I know if Mr. Franzuto was here, he would explain what has taken place in the past. But I feel as though, I mean, that. The scalper has a right to know what happens
Okay,
to his catch if it's confiscated.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman. I do see that disposition of unlawful catch.
I'm sorry?
There is a disposition of unlawful catch. 260-4.83. All confiscated catch will be documented in photographs before putting unlawful shellfish back into the water by the shellfish department.
Oh,
There you go.
8.3.
4.83. Thank you, Mr. Logan.
So basically, the constable or warden, constable is not allowed to take them to the back of his truck and drive away with them. He's supposed to put them back in the water. That's what that means.
Oh, yeah, there it is, nice. Page, what was that, 159?
159.
Well,
Good catch.
I know that hasn't happened completely, but
I mean, you dump it off the dock.
I mean, that's not typically where you want like a bunch of bushels of
Here's the
stuff
thing.
dumped, but.
I know I got my boxes scraped this year and I asked him what he was doing with the scallops. And he told me he was either going to give them to, like Herky Stojak, so an old scallop who doesn't go anymore, or if he had enough, he was gonna take them out in the boat and put them back in. He took maybe a quarter of a bushel off the top of my boxes, and at that point I said, give them to Herky, I'm more than happy to see it.
Mr. Chairman,
Peter?
for aquaculture violations, shouldn't we consider, based on what we did go through and still going through with Mr. Fitzgibbon, shouldn't we have something in there that says that they're required to grow their oysters where they were permitted?
It is in there. It's. So I went back and checked that after talking to Jake C about it.
Probably in the lease too.
Just don't help, you know. Beyond page 8.
Harvest, storage, or culling outside of approved areas or without proper permit kind of covers that.
He was doing it outside of the approved area.
Right, he was
And
doing it,
outside of the approved time.
right,
Right.
okay.
Just real quickly, this is the only issue I have with the recreational scallop dredging. Under B, it says license holder may have a maximum of 4 dredges on the vessel. So like for me, if I go on a Saturday, I have 8 dredges in the boat. So it should say, it should mimic what the commercial limit is, which is 8 dredges.
No, you
So-
gotta take them off the boat off.
That means I gotta take, if I wanna go scalloping on a Saturday afternoon to get my 2 bushels. Or someone, I wanna take somebody who used to be a commercial scalloper, has one of these free licenses. I've gotta pull 4 dredges off my boat before I can go and take them to get his 4, his 2 bushels.
You can't just
Well,
put
if we have
four,
the new
four,
dredges,
four in
it
the
would be
water?
4, so
Well,
there you
that's
go.
true, but I'm just saying, I think it should mimic what, if somebody's, if I wanna take my mother, because she used to be a commercial scalloper and she wants to go get 2 boxes of scallops, and she has one of these licenses, I shouldn't have to go and take 4 dredges off the boat
No, that makes sense.
to go out.
But are you wanting to use 8?
No, most of the time you use 1 or 2, but
Right.
I don't wanna have to untie 4 off of the boat
Right.
and leave them on the dock and come back,
So where do you want to go with this? Do you want to,
Couldn't you just add no more than 4 dredges in the water at any one time?
You could, I don't know how you enforce it.
I don't,
So,
I just
don't
think
think
you
it
should
matters.
change it to 8, I don't think it's gonna matter.
Just catch them, go home.
now, where do you want to go with this is the question.
I mean, I want to get this off my plate, so I would
Right.
like to push some stuff through, at least.
So we did the big part, so we just have your hot ticket items, okay? We've got this list, this list that you gave us of all these, the short list here. We've got that widowed down, winnowed down, I don't know, trimmed. It's trimmed down pretty far. We've got some hot topics, but it seems like there are only half dozen of them.
Right,
So maybe make a list of those hot topics, put the wording in for them, and we just discuss them
okay,
next time.
right.
Is that,
I think
that's
it's
an
good.
idea.
I think it's good.
And
We don't get
you
distracted.
already
We
have
don't
an
wander around.
indication of the harbors in here.
Okay,
Dave, thank you for that.
I won't be at the next meeting. But I would love if you guys did that, and then we could, the next meeting after that, which is the second meeting in February, if we could maybe get a final draft done and get it to the selectmen for March, I think that would be good, because that way these regulations would be in place before people start buying their golf licenses for next season.
Can't you zoom in from the blind?
I could, the problem is I'm driving, Peter, so I don't know if I'll
Okay.
have cell service to Zoom. I could try, because I'm gonna be driving through Kansas or to Kansas, so on Tuesday. But I can try.
I wish you were Zoom.
All right, I can, so the next meeting's on March 4th?
No, February.
Oh, February 4th, okay,
Yes.
all right. I will not be here on the 18th, so.
Okay,
All right, so
Things through.
would you be
between
able
then.
to, if you said, you just to send that out to us when you get the wording beforehand? Okay, good. Because then you can get some comments. So
yeah, if you get it out to me beforehand, I'll go through the bullet points and I'll, throw comments, I can just send it back to you
Okay,
in writing.
I need an updated email for you. It keeps getting kicked back to me for some
Take the
reason.
E off Albacore,
Okay,
Albacore with no E, at Comcast.net.
okay,
Your computer will autocorrect Albacore and then it won't go to me.
Okay.
That's why I'm not getting it.
right.
Okay,
Chairman, for a second, just thank you, Tara, for this effort. I know it's daunting and all the details are, maybe a little redundant and whatnot, but I thank you for putting your effort into this as a new fisherman. I just wanted to let you know personally that your effort is not gone unnoticed.
No, thank you.
I hope I'm retired by the time we have to do this again.
Me too.
right, boy. We've already put in a lot of time on it, last year, but that's okay, and
it's
Tara,
getting done.
what Mr. Rogan said, thank you. Any more discussion on amendments to town shellfish regulations? Next on new business is shellfish board notifications to commercial-based golfers regarding red flag days and other vital communications. There's still an issue with group texting. It sounds like some people are being texted and maybe being told to spread the word to others. I know JC had an explanation that some guys may not have wanted their number exposed to other people. I think there's a way to keep that from happening. We're gonna have to have JC come in for this. Tara, I don't think it's your job to be the messenger for all of these shellfish constable issues, so we'll request his presence. Season extension. Tara, should we put this back on the agenda? The discussion, I mean, the only reason I'm bringing this up is because the last time we did this several years ago, the state complained that we brought in that request much too late, and if we were to do it again, they wanted that request earlier. And to me, that seems a little, well, gee, how do we know what's available? Right now, there's an abundance, but will there be an abundance in March? Or do we rely more on increasing the limit and not extending the season? Personally, I feel maybe both, maybe at least for this season, may be warranted, because and also for the past several years, it has remained cold out into April. I feel safer to fish into April versus October 15th bush raking in a t-shirt. That's more climate related, but we have to take that into consideration. the season extension is, you know, we can put it on the agenda and not move forward with anything, but at least it's there in case we do want to move forward with it.
I think you keep it on the agenda, and I think that our department should contact the DMF and find out what they need in advance to approve an extension.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Based on your estimates, high estimate of 5,000 bushels, do you feel comfortable that if we wanted to extend it, we could?
Mhm.
Yeah. Let's put it on for the middle of February, the 18th meeting. And hopefully between now and then, Natural Resources could get some definition from the state as to when they want us to put it in by. And then we could make a decision then about extending it or going to the.
I think it should be on the next,
We can put it on the next one too, yeah. With,
Well, I'm interested to hear what DMF says about
Yeah.
when they want to know.
we don't hear anything from DMF yet, so be it, we'll continue to the next meeting, but, you're bringing it closer to March where
And it's
it's
pretty late.
kind of late, yeah.
Yeah.
we may also want to talk about, going to the selectmen at the next meeting to go to 7 boxes.
All right. Anything else? Anything anybody would like to see on the agenda for our
Mr.
next
Chairman, I would
meeting?
love to put on our February 18th agenda. I'd like to have a discussion about getting an app built where we have a centralized weather station somewhere that will give real-time info to the app where we can report our daily catches and where recreational people could do the same. You know, a perfect example of something similar is we have to send in catch reports at the end of the season before we can get a new license. When I get a new, before I can get a duck stamp, federal duck stamp, I have to do what's called a HIP, highly migratory, I don't know what it stands for, but it's a HIP report. And it's a simple 8-question thing that I fill out. Did I harvest ducks this year? How many did I harvest? Did I harvest geese? Did I harvest brant? Did I harvest scooters or whatever? We could have the same thing in an app for when people renew their recreational license. Did you scallop last year? Yes. How many bushels did you take? They could put it in there, and then Tara would have real information as to what was taken by the recreational fishermen versus just a guess based on the number of licenses that we sell. I think that there's got to be some grad student out there or some program through maybe WPA or someone
Yeah,
that could
there's-
write a simple app for us. I mean, there's so many apps.
They come here looking for projects every year.
Exactly.
Right.
Slowly
Yeah.
add to it too, of course.
And there would have to be some funding involved to maintain that though, because it's either gonna have to come into our IT department or we're gonna have to pay someone else to store this stuff. But yeah, the students that come in here every year looking for projects to do, it would seem to me this would be an ideal project.
And if it's funding's an issue, I'm sure that we can get the Shellfish Association to help fund it. But I think it would just make everyone's life so much easier.
Mhm.
Like this whole thing with the flag and what the temperature is, it could be all there, black and white. And we could do our catch reports daily or weekly, just like I do with my state ones. And you know exactly what everybody was doing every day.
And you could add surveys, you can do things with it. Yeah, that'd be a great project.
It would be, yeah.
Yeah, let's keep that. It's not something we have to do either.
It's on the list.
Well, I think we could farm it out. It'd be nice to have it in place for next season. So that it just would, I think it would make everyone's life so much easier.
Is there a town contact to get those people? There must be for them to come over here. I forget, I was involved. in
I don't recall them coming over, but every high school student has to have so
Community
many
service.
hours of community service in to be able to graduate.
No,
we
when-
do the
We're not,
presentations.
yeah, that's the Worcester
Worcester,
WPA.
yeah, Worcester.
They did it,
Right.
and it's part of their grad student program.
Right, right.
And
I mean,
I'm sure there's an IT program there that if we said, look, we need an app written, they probably could do it in
right,
no time at all. But,
yeah, I think the local kids could maintain that after it's in place and add surveys and add things to it. I think that'd be interesting, but. Yeah, how do we find out? I guess Libby would know. But they've got to come through the town. They use town resources. They
I
do the
just know when I was
presentations in
on the
town.
select board, they would give us
Yeah,
presentations, of
yeah,
all the
all the
stuff. they
time,
did.
right.
But it might be I think it would make everyone's life so much easier than all these
All right, we're gonna
paper
keep that.
forms.
You guys will use apps.
Well, I mean, we
Yeah.
all use I don't think there's a guy out there scalping that doesn't carry a cell phone anymore.
I know,
Ken
Maybe in
Kelly,
the waterproof bag.
Ken Kelly, yeah, he doesn't have a cell phone.
it's all right, I have his numbers.
Okay, anything else? If there's nothing else, our next meeting's February 4th. Then February 18th. Was there anybody on Zoom? I saw somebody earlier, not there
John
now.
Gardner, he stepped off.
Okay, so if there's nothing else, I'll accept a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second,
Motion's made by Mr. Bossy, seconded by Mr. DeCosta to adjourn tonight's meeting. All in favor, Mr. Anderson,
Aye.
Mr. Bossy,
Aye.
Mr. DeCosta,
aye.
Mr. Sherlin,
Aye.
Mr. Brace.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. This meeting is adjourned at 6:48.